Is this now the official theme song of Coffee with Ben? The Sinatra song?
It just kind of, it just kind of has fallen into that groove.
I like it.
Till we find
Everybody
something
likes
better.
Sinatra, right? Is this now the official theme song of Coffee with Ben?
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back again. Allow me to introduce the cream to my sugar, the rook to my bishop, the wind beneath my wings, the host with the most, Mr. Ben Blackman.
All right. Thank you, Jorn. Hello, and thank you all for tuning in. This is Virtual Coffee with Ben. I'm Ben. I'm Ben Blackman. I'm the Director of Development for RIDG, which stands for Royal Innovation Design Group. It's a group of innovation consultants and experts in innovation. It's based here in sunny St. Petersburg, Florida. It's actually raining nonstop, and I can't stand it. Before we get started today, I want to encourage you all once again to go to the YouTube page for RIDG, to subscribe to our channel, go to our Facebook page. You can like and share all of our great content. You can also schedule your very own virtual coffee session with me, and we can talk about all of the great ways that RIDG can help your company to innovate more efficiently. This series, Virtual Coffee with Ben, which is every Wednesday at 9 a.m., focuses on how companies innovate, how they strategically plan for the future, and how they create a strong culture for their employees. I'm very excited this morning to welcome back the woman who makes it all possible, the founder and chief innovation officer for RIDG. That's Michelle Royal. She's here today to talk about amazing customer experiences that happen during times of crises. She had an amazing experience yesterday, and we'll get to that in a moment. We are also joined, of course, by the man who runs the show, Jorn Oppelt. He's the Director of Creativity and Innovation for RIDG. And we have Philip Leslie. He is one of our many talented visual strategists. He's going to be creating a graphic recording of today's show, which we will be posting after it's all finished. Good morning to you all. I hope you're all doing well. Michelle, you are joining us from the beautiful state of Arkansas, which
Arkansas,
actually known as the natural state. And that's ironic because I wanted to talk to you today about how companies are adjusting to the unnatural state of the world right now. And one of the consistent themes that we keep hearing from our customers and our network of business professionals is that they're having to find new ways to interact with their customers despite having limited resources. So you mentioned to me yesterday while you were flying to Arkansas, you had an amazing experience flying on Delta Airlines. It was really eye-opening. So I'm curious, what specifically about that did you take note of?
Sure. Well, let me start with, first, whenever the pandemic first really hit, and for us, it was March 11th, that was our date. And the first couple months afterwards, we were talking to a lot of our clients and tech companies and companies in general. And we all asked them how they were transitioning in this process. And they all said, oh, we have Zoom, we're good. And that's where it ended. And what companies are finding is that there are permanent changes that are happening, permanent perceptions, permanent desires, permanent needs, permanent fears. There are things that have become anchored in the hearts and minds of individuals as they move out in the world. And that for many organizations that we serve, which sometimes have products with service experiences around them, and some of them are 100% a service experience business, meaning that the perception that the client has of their service determines whether or not they interact with it, have changed forever. It's one of those, it's just one of those things that's forever changed. So I, as many of you know, I had contracted COVID in June, and survived, and have been doing really well, feel super healthy, and I'm doing awesome. And I needed to take a trip to see my family. And so I was taking a flight, and I'm a Delta customer. I've been a Delta customer for, 15 years consistently. And I've always enjoyed how they've evolved their brand, and I've always enjoyed how they've evolved their service experience. And I've talked to other people who fly, say, Continental or American or United, and when they have that loyalty, they also receive similar benefits. But I'd like to think that Delta does something a little bit different. So, so I feel like they proved me right whenever I purchased my ticket to Little Rock about a month ago. And what they did from the service experience, and I'm just going to lay this out. So I always get prompts and emails on how to prepare for the trip. This time, though, it was different. And one of the biggest concerns about flying was around the air quality. And there's a perception that you're trapped in this plane and that you're in this trapped air. And with the virus and all of the real media hype that's been happening around that, it was a real concern. And so they had all these different ways to prepare for the trip, including to be sure that you knew which airports had different qualifications than others, and to be sure to connect me with the Tampa airport. And they connected me with the Sky Clubs and which Sky Clubs were open. And so they gave me all of this information, but I received email prompts, text prompts, and then also prompts through the app. They really wanted to make sure that I saw this information. And I usually, I'm a pretty well-versed traveler, so I'd never really look at that, but I did this time because I thought I really am unsure what's going to happen. So about a week ago, I watched the videos that they prepared, and they were these super friendly videos that talked about the reality of air quality. They talked about how to prepare for getting ready for the trip, which is you're going to wear a mask all throughout the airport. You're going to wear a mask in the club. You're going to wear a mask on the plane. The seat selection was really clear as to what was available, what wasn't, how that was going to be protective. But the primary thing was this really cool video about the air quality. And I thought that was really awesome because immediately I was set at ease about what my experience was going to be from just being in a plane for a total of 2 hours in flight, but being in a plane and moving through multiple airports. And so that was really awesome. And then whenever I arrived, there's really clear, I think we've all been experiencing kind of like the grocery store and different stores, on the day-to-day life, but at the airport, really clear wayfinding on where you're going to move, how you're to be spaced apart. And it was just super, super easy. Plus the airport was practically empty, which was like, nobody was there, which is awesome. But whenever we got on the flight, and I think that this was one of the biggest things, before we got on the flight though, I was so impressed with everything. I went to the Sky Club, which was open, and they have the plexiglass, and then the individual told me, what time my flight is. All of those things are normal, but she said, all of our food is packaged, prepackaged and ready to go for you. So please grab and go. Now, you never used to be able to do that with Delta. As a matter of fact, they had signs that said, you cannot take your food outside of this place. And so they moved with the needs of the client. And so I could go, I could grab whatever I needed, and I could take it with me in my own contained little environment that I needed. When I got on the plane, as I was moving onto the plane, they boarded from the back of the plane to the front of the plane, except for first class. But they boarded from the back to the front, which actually made it super easy and freeing. And then whenever I got on the plane, they handed you individually wrapped sanitation wipes to wipe down your area if you needed. And then while you're on the plane, there's a video, and the first video that comes on usually is from the CEO, but this time it was from their chief experience officer. And he talked about creating a safe and comforting experience for me as a flyer, as a passenger on their flight. And it was so reassuring. And then their normal, hey, buckle up, all the stuff. And then whenever it came time to serving the drinks and the snacks, which even though it was just an hour flight 2 times over, they had these little packages, these little clear plastic bags so you could see everything that was in them. And it was a water bottle and 2 little snacks, and on it said just for you. And that was like, I kept having all of these little wow moments, wow, that was really nice that and then they just handed them, they were they're wearing their gloves, and they just hand it to me. And so that just continued, and I felt completely comfortable, taken care of. And it just dawned on me how powerful it is right now for companies that offer services that are used to the face-to-face experience, the level of care that is required today, and the level of opportunity to redesign that experience. Because I'm even more loyal to Delta now. I trust them even more. I want to use them all the time. I want to, they're my airline. Like
Yeah. Well, yeah,
that
you're
single moment created
singing their
this
praises to
awesome
us. So
bloom.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just cut them a great commercial right there.
Right.
Uh, well, I'm glad you had such a great experience, and you mentioned that's changed the way you feel about Delta already. I'm curious what you think executives and leaders can do right now in other companies to kind of mimic that. Do you think it's important to designate somebody as a chief experience officer or have somebody in that role where maybe they weren't previously?
Yeah. So a lot of companies are cutting back, say, on their innovation budgets, and yet designing experience takes time and thought and awareness. It doesn't always cost a lot of money. As a matter of fact, I would submit that what Delta did reduced their costs because they can bulk buy, for example, the Just For You packages, and they're not creating custom drinks for all their customers. That's a huge cost savings in and of itself. It's a time savings. So designing experience really requires a sense of awareness and a commitment to what that can mean. And for a lot of companies, it can be both internal, designing the experience for their employees, as well as for their customers. And it's a big job. So chief experience officer can align with or be akin to chief innovation officer or an innovation leader in and of itself. And we're finding that a lot of our clients are needing to design more service experiences as their primary fuel for innovation than it is for them to adopt, say, AI or RPA, some robotic process automation. That what they're really needing is to enhance that human touch throughout the course of their overall interaction or value distribution chain with their clients. And when we work in the build program, the business innovation and leadership design, the foundation that is set now, if you were to set a strategy for innovation, service experience would be a huge piece of that. So I do think it's important for someone to take on the responsibility, even if they are the chief innovation officer, to focus as much on experience.
Michelle, I know that you like to talk to people on planes. So I'm wondering if you got a sense that people were having a similar experience that you were, or different experiences.
I actually did not talk to people on planes this time because it was a particularly early flight. So I was resting. I used the time for me this
Good.
time.
Well, I'm glad.
Although whenever traveling frequently, talking with people on planes is a common thing that I do, but I did not this time.
But was there a sense that like, something's different. This is cool. Like, did you get that vibe from other people or even in the airport?
I didn't, but I will say this, there's always a frenetic energy. I don't know, whenever you may experience this, whenever the plane lands, there's this frenetic energy of, oh my God, I've got to get off the plane. The final thing that Delta did, aside from asking me for some feedback, was I landed, everyone turns on their phone. I instantly got a text prompt, and I'm going to read you guys what the text said. Because they also had it on their teleprompters, and they also reminded you of it while you were on the plane. So much of what adoption requires is consistent marketing. It's messaging to the user what the next step is. It says, welcome to Little Rock. And I got one for Atlanta as well. It was the same message both times. To help your flight crew provide a safe experience for everyone, please allow some extra space between you and your fellow passengers when exiting the plane. And on the plane, it even said, please remain seated until your fellow passenger in the same row has already stood up and has walked away. And the frenetic energy that normally happens whenever you land and you're like, oh, okay, gotta get up, gotta go, was gone. It felt totally calm for me as a passenger. I didn't feel that sense of urgency to have to move like I have in the past. And it was just so much easier.
That I literally don't know why it hasn't been like that already. Like
Right.
why we don't get the prompts, and B, why people just don't have the courtesy or common sense to just do that. Right.
Right. So it takes sometimes a crisis where and instead of saying, it was just the way it was language. I mean, this is a masterful service experience, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so it was so remarkable to me that I thought of how many times in the innovation process we've been faced with what is going to be the ideal service experience to create those wow moments for people, which are not always they're not always movie theater shining lights. Sometimes they're as subtle as pause.
Pause and breathe.
And it doesn't take a lot of money necessarily to make those changes.
It doesn't take a lot of investment at all. It does take, as I said, it takes awareness and stepping back and thinking. It takes thinking. There's a great book called Creative Ecologies, where thinking is a proper job. And human work, there's not an AI that was going to be able to produce this message or experience for me today. Maybe in 20 years there could be. But the human work that's required to serve humans and have that compassion and that empathy is really, really important right now.
It reminds me of the stopping and waiting, reminds me of when I saw the picture of the first outdoor festival, the first music performance in the UK. And they had constructed these elevated metal boxes, like 6x6 boxes in this field with chairs. And, you had your own little seating area, and they looked like little VIP boxes. And that was to ensure 6 feet between people. But what it did was it created this kind of grid, and you could walk between them and, walk towards the stage or go back to your box. And I looked at it and I go, oh my God, why would we ever go back to the old, we're going to tell our kids stories about, well, we used to stand in the dirt and watch the show. You know what I mean? Like, why would we ever go back to the old way of doing things? And here's another example of why would you ever go back now to the old way of inefficiency or, that poor user experience. Granted, I know some people at festivals like to roll around in the dirt and mosh pit and whatever. They do, right? But I'd much rather sit in a box and watch the show.
Absolutely.
It made the inconvenient. I mean, for some, mask wearing is inconvenient. It made the inconvenience of mask wearing something that was very comfortable. I've been at a gym and the past couple days, and they in the gym, there's law that you walk into the gym with a mask. If you are exercising, you don't have to wear a mask. When you walk from machine to machine, you have to wear a mask. None of that makes sense to me. It's not really well designed or well thought out, which I think is, without getting too controversial, but how policy sometimes is not always the best experience design. And if experience design was leading, we might actually come up with more effective policy. But that's a pitch to try to get into some government experience. Please help us redesign this.
Yeah.
Well, right. And the businesses who are trying to push back now and say, please let us reopen, we'll do whatever we can. And you have bars applying for food licenses just so that they can reopen early. And there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah. All of a sudden, if you serve peanuts at the bar, you're considered a restaurant, right? Well, if you're just joining us, you're watching Virtual Coffee with Ben. I'm Ben Blackman, the Director of Development for RIDG. I'm joined today by Michelle Royal. She's our Founder and Chief Innovation Officer. Got Jordan Oppelt, our Director of Creativity and Innovation. And Philip Leslie is doing a graphic recording of the whole interview. He's a visual strategist at RIDG. If you like what you're hearing, you want more of this content, you can go to our YouTube page, our Facebook page, like and share everything that you see. And we will be here every Wednesday at 9 a.m. talking about innovation. Today, we're talking about the customer experience and experience design. Michelle, I'm curious, so all of the stuff that you've seen and experienced with Delta, some of the not so great experiences at the gym, I'm curious, out of all of this that you've observed, how is RIDG now applying some of these principles of customer experience design? How are we helping our customers? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so well, first, let me say that it's about empathy and agency. I was just considering, why does a why does a packet of sanitation wipes matter to 50, or the plane was 2/3 full. So, 180 passengers. Why would that matter to invest in that? And it was about agency. It was about, in this uncontrollable world and in this uncontrollable environment of flying, I can have some agency. I can choose to wipe down every single area if I personally don't trust whether or not it's clean. And then I can see it. I can tactily touch it and feel it and see it and know that I've done my part to protect myself. And they gave me that option. And that's a really powerful service note, right? It wasn't about the packet. It was about what the packet provided the individual. So with our clients who are facing massive uncertainty, our job also is to provide them with tools that can give them agency. And a lot of that has to do with visually laying out the process. So we are an innovation integrator that leverages this visualization, this visual facilitation. Philip's on the call, our visual strategist, to help bring to life the ideas and make them visible. And that kind of visualization of owning in either text on a post-it in a virtual environment workspace, or in a timeline that says, here's what you can expect, here's the actual work effort it takes to accomplish this, creates clarity and confidence. And at least this I know I can go into. I'm choosing to go into this work environment. So when we work with clients in the build process, there's visualizing the journey for them overall of what they can experience. And then they have agency. They can tell us where is the most important effort to be placed. Is it going to be on the future building skills? Do they need more of that knowledge and training than they do the actual strategy? Is it, which is the innovation readiness piece of it and the prioritization piece of it? Or is it in the customization of a model because they already know all this information, but they're not really communicating it or scaling it properly? So it's helping them see that visually and using the tools that we have to both communicate and create that confidence in the direction that they're going.
Jordan, I know you're heavily involved in this work as well. Which aspect of it do you think resonates the most right now for companies that are looking to change their customer experience?
I mean, the only thing I would add is I think that we as RIDG focus a lot on the idea of safety in a way that may not be what you think when you hear the word. We put a high priority on psychological safety and people being feeling good about being in a room with others and being open and honest. And that honesty, I think, then leads to the ability to move a chair or reprioritize the plan, right? All of that needs to be on a foundation of confidence in the people in the room. And I think that leads to what Michelle's talking about, which is the agency or the ability for them to exert their will, and make a vision into reality, because that's what teams are doing, is they're building something together. And I see it. I see it in the clients we work with, they say, oh, I didn't think I could move that over to the other side of the room, until they talked about it, and then it becomes the new reality. So yeah, yeah, nothing to add. I agree 100%. I mean, you've got to be able to be honest, and it's got to feel safe, and you got to feel like you have a sense of control, and that you're being included. It's right. It's participatory and it's engaging. It's all of that. And I mean, I see that in all of our products and programs. It's just baked in, because we know how important that is. We know how that feels.
And Michelle, I know you hit on empathy earlier. I know it's something that we continue to talk about a lot. In fact, we had a whole Coffee with Ben episode with Andy Graham of Big C Marketing. We talked about empathy-based marketing, and she really emphasized that it's not just saying that you're empathetic it's about really listening to the customer and what's important. And I think that's something that we've tried to put in practice here as well, is really making sure that we're listening to our customers, but the people that we're working with are making sure that they listen to their customers as well. So just wanted to underscore the importance of that as well. Before we hop off, Michelle, any closing thoughts, any additional advice for leaders or executives that might be listening that just want information or thoughts on how they can improve their customer experience?
Sure. I think that it seems like a daunting task to look at your service process, or the process that a customer goes through from beginning to end, from what is driving their need to even reach out to you to, the end result of after they've worked with you. But it can be workshopped in a matter of an 8-hour time frame, really, really directly. And that first brush of awareness brings to light, holy cow, if we could impact this, one thing in a moment that matters, this one moment that matters, it would make all the difference. And that can be transformative. That can be the beginning. A lot of transformations feel overwhelming, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to take what's already working great and then start to move it forward in a direction that allows your customers to love you, because they're ultimately providing you all of your wealth and prosperity, all of your growth, and vice versa. You're helping them too. So I think empathy is both ways. And I do want to say about empathy, just briefly, beyond listening, it is a true feeling with. It is a true feeling with. And so it's not just, I'm going to listen and observe as an outsider and find an opportunity and take advantage of that. That's kind of where it can sometimes get a little bit off. It's a real opportunity to relate and then generate solutions from that place.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and relaying your experiences with Delta. I'm glad that you made it to Arkansas safely. I hope you have safe travels back to Florida, and I hope your return flight is just as great as the one there. If you're interested in learning more about all the great stuff that we're doing here at RIDG, you can go to our website, which is www.ridg.com. That's RIDG.com. And again, you can go to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, to like and subscribe all of our content. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next time, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.